Everyone, welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Durling. Sarah and I on vacation in Surrey, PEI, staying in a little cottage. I'm just kind of looking around the yard here. It's absolutely gorgeous here. There's the barbecue, put that to good use. There's the cottage itself. Having a great week here. Ah yes, here we are. So basically I'm kicking back on the little screened-in porch here. Just having a bit of water. So on this is a road trip edition. The road trip, well, we're already here, but we're going to be traveling around the island. Specifically, I want to go to Charlottetown to Back Alley Music. I was there 3 years ago and scored big, and I want to see what they have there this time. But if I find nothing else, I've already found something. On the way down, stopped in Moncton at Spin It because they held some cassettes for me. Earlier last week, someone unloaded major stash of hard rock and metal cassettes. Good stuff. So I messaged them at Spin It and gave them some specific titles I wanted them to hold on to for me, and they did, which I'm not surprised. So I stopped in and picked them up. This one wasn't in the pile, I just spotted it there. I've never had this on cassette. It's Foreigner, the Very Best and Beyond from '92. This is an Atlantic Canadian Columbia House cassette. Got some Helix, some old Helix cassettes actually, like old versions of them. This is a Canadian version of No Rest for the Wicked. Years ago I had this, it was the Silver Blue edition. If you watched my April Wine cassette video I did not too long ago, I explained what that's all about. So yeah, that's probably a first run of it. And also similar looking is Walking the Razor's Edge. Now that's not a Capital case, I gotta replace that. It's a CBS case because it's got the nice price on it, that, and it says CBS right along the side here. But anyway, I got that. And this was a nice surprise. It's Long Way to Heaven, which, you know, it's their fifth album. So I'm going right in order here. But this one is a US cassette. And I had to, you know, read the address on it. But the easiest way to tell is the cassette itself. So you don't see a lot of US Helix cassettes, so that was cool. Made a bit of a dent in my Alice Cooper cassette collection. You don't see a lot of Alice's tapes. Love It to Death. This is a great album, and this is a Canadian cassette. Reissue, obviously, a relatively newer one. School's Out from '72. Kind of loses the effect without being able to open this, but it's a cassette, so. Some of these cases are a little beat up. Another one of my favorite of Alice's albums, Alice Cooper Goes to Hell from '76. And an album I really don't like at all, his live album, The Alice Cooper Show. Great songs. I don't like the way they're played on here. Not one little bit. I mean, maybe this is some of your favorite out there. Maybe this is somebody's favorite Alice album. It's just my opinion. And a ton of Whitesnake albums, like a ton of Whitesnake albums. Snake Bite, the first one. This is obviously a reissue. It's a Geffen reissue, Canadian version. All of these reissues happened in '87 after the 1987 album got so big. Trouble, another Canadian reissue on Geffen. It's interesting because you see it says 1978 David Geffen Corporation. There was no Geffen Records in 1978. Missed Love Hunter. This is a rarer one here, Ready and Willing. Now this one did not get reissued by Geffen. This is a UK version on EMI. It's got the Fame logo there. This is one of the best, I think, early Whitesnake albums. The tape itself, I'll show you, looks a little weird. See-through. Almost looks like a blank cassette, but it's not. One of my all-time favorite live albums, Live in the Heart of the City. And what's interesting about this one is that it has the Geffen logo on it, but it also has a Mirage logo on it. This was issued in Canada on Mirage Records, which is distributed by Atlantic, which was distributed by WEA. So the original issue of this wouldn't have looked all that different. And a couple of American ones, actually. Come and Get It from '81. This is a Geffen issue. Obviously, this was a deleted one. It's got a hole punched in it. Tape looks considerably different. And finally, from 1982, Saints and Sinners. Another US Geffen, another cutout one. So yeah. So we're going to check out Back Alley Music. I'm hoping I find some treasures there too. So here we are back at our cottage. A very successful trip to Back Alley Music in Charlottetown. I want to send a shout out to those guys. If you're on the island vacationing, I think it's the lone record store here, used record store, so check them out. They've moved since the last year. So the last time I was there was about 3 years ago, but in the last year they've moved. They're still downtown. In my opinion, a more convenient location. So I got a few things. I'll start off with the one cassette that I got. It's Bryan Adams, So Far So Good, his best of from 1993. This is just a Canadian edition. And some vinyl. A couple of these, up until now, I previously only owned on 8-track. It's kind of hard to see what this says. It's Deep Purple, Purple Passages. And this came out in 1972. This is one of the many compilations of their first 3 albums, the Mark I of Deep Purple. And one thing I did notice on here that was interesting, if you're an Alice Cooper fan, the design on this is done by a guy named Christopher Wharf. He also designed Alice Cooper's Flush to Fashion album, which is basically just words written out in a fashion. So there you go. This is an American edition. Pretty elaborate markup on the songs here. But what's really cool are the sleeves. I'll just show you one of this. It's a 2-record set. It's the Burbank Warner Brothers logo. So these are both the same on the sleeves. This is September 23rd, 1917 or 1911, Burbank, California. And this is an advertisement for what they're calling the Warner Reprise Loss Leaders. These are various artists' albums that they sold for only $2 each. And I mean, they're Warner Brothers artists, so there could be anybody from Deep Purple to Neil Young to the Marshall Tucker Band to Beach Boys to Seals and Crofts, Foghat, all on the same mixed album. There's a ton of them here, and yeah, I don't know if they have any collectability value. So I found that one. Another Deep Purple one from 1976. This is made in Europe, and this is a live document of the Mark III Deep Purple, which is the David Coverdale, Glenn Hughes era, still with Ritchie Blackmore. Only 5 songs on here. Deep Purple had a tendency to do long jams on their songs. If you're a Whitesnake fan and you like the Purple album, every one of these songs appeared on the Purple album. Now, speaking of inner sleeves, I thought this was kind of funny. I pulled this out and I thought, well, that's interesting. On the bottom here, it said 1976 Warner Brothers Records. So I'm like, okay, well, that's right. The catalog number up here didn't match up, so I typed it in Discogs, and I flipped this over and I said, is it John Lord? No, who is that? Is it Martin Birch? Who is that? That's James Taylor. This is the inner sleeve to James Taylor's greatest hits. So then I thought, let's look at the record. I'm happy to report the record is indeed Deep Purple. So there you go. $5, I picked this one up because it's pretty beat up, but for $5 I couldn't pass it up. I have it on CD, now I have it on record. It's the live Yes album, Yes Songs from 1973. Excellent Roger Dean artwork, and this folds out like nothing I've ever seen. This is a very, very elaborate fold out, and I'll flip it around here and show you the other side of it. And let's see, it's got 2 records with it. Are they the right record? Yep. Records are kind of beaten up, pretty scratchy, and I'm guessing that's one of the other reasons why this was $5. This is actually a Canadian edition. And another Yes album, one I never had in any form before, from 1974. This is Relayer. Again, I love the artwork. Pretty sure this is a Canadian edition. Here's the sleeve with the lyrics and the record itself. The record itself appears to be very thick vinyl. I don't know if they did that on purpose. It wouldn't surprise me. Actually, this is not Canadian. It's a US edition. And the last 2 to show you are kind of cool. Wasn't really expecting them. AC/DC, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. This is a Canadian edition. This obviously is the 1981 reissue. It's harder to find AC/DC albums that aren't the Sony reissues nowadays, so this is a Canadian edition on Atlantic. And it's got This little inner sleeve's a little beaten up, but it is the right inner sleeve. And there's the record itself. And one that I crossed off my list that I've been looking for years and years and years. Joe Perry Project, Once a Rocker, Always a Rocker. This was the third and final Joe Perry Project album from 1983, just before he rejoined Aerosmith. This is a promotional copy. You can tell, these stickers on here. It might have been one that you signed out. Almost looks like a library type of thing here. CBC FM Charlottetown. And property of CBC Record Library, Charlottetown. Look, I paid for it at Back Alley Music, folks. There's the promotional stamp on it. You don't see this on record anywhere. And well, the plastic sleeve's a little mangled. But it is the right album on the typical rainbow MCA logo, and it also looks a tiny bit warped. I'll have to see if this actually plays or not, but I've got it anyway. The adventure continues on this road trip edition, this time around the Pharmasave. I'm not even kidding. Sarah and I had to go into Surrey, right into the town, to pick up a couple things. And I saw this at Pharmasave, Flash Gordon from 1980. And for $4.99, I figured I'd get an edit to my Queen DVD collection. Because let's face it, they do the entire soundtrack. I remember watching this movie once, renting it, back when I first got into Queen and thinking it was pretty cheesy. So if I thought it was cheesy then, it's probably even more cheesy now, but it might be cheesy fun. Who knows? But for $5, this is essentially a Queen DVD as far as I'm concerned. Well, it looks like I'm a sweaty mess because it's about 100 degrees here. Just getting home, stopped at Livewire in Moncton because Marty was putting a couple tapes aside for me, and I forgot them. I did get some other ones, though, so I'll show you what I did get. He's still going to hold on to them. He messaged me back and said, hey, Tim, you forgot your tapes. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're right here. Yeah, those ones are. Anyway. So you got Bryan Adams, Into the Fire. On a Day Like Today, late 90s tape. You don't see those all the time. Heart, self-titled. Heart, The Road Home. You don't see this one much at all. It's from 95. And another Heart one, this is Magazine. So yeah, so thanks to Marty for holding on to those tapes for me. Again, great road trip. Good to be home. And hope you enjoyed watching. Thanks for watching this edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions.